prophecy is one of the better evidences for the existence of God that there is. Isaiah says, speaking for God, that those gods can't tell the future. If they could tell the future, then we'd admit that they were gods. But those idols can't tell the future. Therefore, they are no gods. Well, God tells the future. And not only does he tell the future in this instance, he names Josiah as the king that's going to destroy the altars and the idolatry of ways in the south. And he names him, 400 to 600 years before he's born. Josiah reached out to get him, and his hand withered, and he pleaded with him to pray to God to restore it, and he restored it. And so the king told him, he said, come home and eat with me. And he said, I can't do it because God told me
not to.
You shall eat no bread, nor drink water, nor return by the way which you came. So he went another way and did not return by the way which he came to Bethel. Now, an old prophet was living in Bethel, and his sons came and told him the deeds which the man of God had done that day. And the father said, well, which way did he go? And they told him, and so he went after the man of God and found him sitting under an oak tree and said, are you the man of God who came from Judah? And the old prophet said, come home and eat bread with me. And the young prophet said, I cannot come. I can't eat bread with you in this place. For the Lord told me to eat no bread and drink no water and don't return by the way you came. And the old prophet said, what?
He told him, the Lord told him to go get him. Yeah.
I'm a prophet too.
Yeah.
And the Lord told me, where am I at?
18.
Yeah. I'm a prophet like you. And an angel spoke to me by the word of the Lord, saying, bring him back with you to your house that he may eat bread and drink water. But he lied to him. So he went back with him and ate bread in his house and drank water. And, of course, you know the story.
Yeah.
When, whenever he was eating with him, the man of God said, you disobeyed the command of the Lord. You've returned to eating bread when God said don't. And so your body shall not come to the grave of your fathers. That's interesting. You won't leave this land, buddy. You won't get out of the territory. Now, and so we know the story. After he had gone, the lion came and killed him, but didn't eat him. Just left him for dead.
Well, Cheryl, what do you think made him go the second when he didn't go with the first one?
What do you think?
If it was a false
The first one,
If it was a false prophet.
the second one said he was a prophet.
Yeah.
And he said the Lord told me to come.
Now, so if this was a prophet, then this is the word from the Lord, and so
Right.
the Lord's changing his mind.
Right.
You see. What do we learn from that lesson?
The
Lord, don't change his mind.
Don't be listening to no prophet. Lord, don't change his mind.
Yeah, but the problem with that is sometimes the Lord does change his mind.
And don't be listening to the prophet.
We have no more revelation.
Yeah.
It's in the Bible.
Remember that Jonah said, get 40 days and then it will be destroyed. And then God changed his mind and didn't destroy it. So how do we determine, folks, whether or not a prophet is a true prophet?
What he prophesied comes to pass. Right.
Okay, but
Well, somebody can
how
tell
you gonna know
something
that?
and it comes to pass.
I mean, here's this old prophet who comes to young prophet, said, I'm a prophet too. And so how do you know when you're being told a lie? And by the way, you can believe a lie. Remember in the New Testament,
Oh, yeah.
God sent a strong delusion that they might believe a lie.
Yes. And laughed at us from believing.
And notice in that process of the statement, and I love this context because we know that we're dealing with Jerusalem and the Jews here in this context, but they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved, you see. They didn't love the truth enough to make sure that what they were being told was the truth. And there's the key. So what should the young prophet have done?
Prayed about it. Went back to the Lord.
Yeah, at least went back to the Lord. That's the
Oh, yeah.
least. At least he should have said, okay, let's have some evidence that this is a message from God. Let's examine it.
He was very specific.
And bless our hearts. See, that's a big lesson that needs to be learned in our world today. You know, it bothers me, and maybe it don't bother me enough, but maybe it bothers me too much, you know, that everybody who talks about Jesus don't know Jesus. You know, everybody who talks about being a Bible student ain't no Bible student. And I'm talking about us. I'm not just talking about the world. I'm talking about us. And you hear people make statements that are so stupid, and I mean that in the truest sense of the word, not as a slam, you know, as a slam. I mean in the truest sense of the word.
That's because you know better.
I'm sorry?
That's because you know better. So when someone's speaking to you, something that you know better, it's like 1 and 1 is 2. If somebody tells you it's 1,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know better.
Yeah. But these people, you know, are smart people. You know, these people are not dummies.
They're gonna argue that it's 1.
So anyway, what a lesson to shout, you see. So the young prophet listened to the old prophet and he died.
Yeah.
And he died. And not only that, by the way, not only we get the revelation, we get a revelation about that old prophet knowing some stuff, you see.
Know people.
Notice,
Me and Linda are thinking this
so y'all better go find you a new teacher. Don't listen to no old folks. But notice that after he had gone and the lion met him on the way and killed him, you see, and people passed by and they came and told it in the city where the old prophet lived, the old prophet said it is the man of God who disobeyed the command of the Lord. Therefore, the Lord has given him to the lion which has torn him and killed him according to the word of the Lord which he spoke to him. So he went and got the body, he found the body, he took up the body, he brought it back and came to the city to mourn and bury him. The old prophet mourned and buried that young man.
But it was his fault that he was in the situation.
Isn't that interesting?
You know, he had betrayed him.
He's the one who told him a lie and got him to disobey the Lord, and therefore got him killed. And so he comes to mourn over him and bury him. And notice, he laid his body in his own grave, they mourned on him, and he said, alas, my brother, and watch this. And he said, when I die, bury me in the grave which the man of God is buried. Lay my bones beside his bones. For the thing shall surely come to pass which he cried by the word of the Lord against the altar in Bethel and against all the houses of the high places which are in Samaria. Now, I'm going to go back, y'all. I want you to hear the message. Because he says, when he prophesied against the altar. O altar, altar, thus says the Lord. Behold, a son shall be born to the house of David, Josiah by name. Now, how many years in the future?
300.
300 to 400 years. Josiah by name, and on you he shall sacrifice the priests of the high places who burn incense on you, and human bones shall be burned on you. Now, the bones of those false priests and prophets are going to be burned on that altar. They're going to be dug up out of their graves and burned on that altar. Now, get back down to where we are so we can...
So he thinks if he's buried with that good prophet that his
won't.
bones won't be dug up?
Yeah,
that's what he believes, and guess what?
things always get mixed up with them.
Let's see, where is that? Over in 2 Kings, now this is going to be brief, you just need to read the whole story, but when Josiah comes along and does all that, he comes to this grave where the young prophet was buried and the old man's bones were buried beside him. What is this monument that I see? And the men of the city told him, it's the grave of the man of God who came from Judah and proclaimed these things which you've done against the altar of Bethel. And he said, let him alone, let no one disturb his bones. So they left his bones undisturbed with the bones of the prophet who came from Samaria. That old prophet's
He knew
bones
what he was doing.
were laid there untouched because he was in the grave of that young prophet who prophesied against the altar. Now, so again, God kept his promises and he kept his word, and that old prophet knew that he would.
So the troublemaker,
I still don't understand why he lied.
so the troublemaker got saved because of the other one,
Right.
because of the holiness of the
So
other.
you
Human
think
nature.
just because his bones weren't burned don't mean he's saved.
Yeah, but he must have thought it would save
Saved
him.
by men.
Yeah. But remember, the lesson is, you know, and by the way, this man was a prophet of God, an old prophet of God. So guess what that says that prophets can do? They can rebel and lie.
Yeah, they can become evil.
They can give a false message if they want to. Don't forget Balaam. Balaam wanted to, and God didn't want to let him. So Balaam found another way to compromise the children of Israel. Now, but the lesson is not especially a lesson about false prophets, folks, and true prophets.
It's disobedience to God.
The lesson is the lesson on hearing God himself. If God says this is the way it is, and somebody comes along and says, no, he told me that you could do it differently, it's a different way, what responsibility do we have? See, where's the evidence? Let's show me. Where's the evidence? Yeah. Application-wise, it ought to be, let's see the context. Let's see the text and the context. Let's hear from God. Let's see it. Let's understand it. Let's know it. But bless our hearts, we don't have time to do that. We want our Burger King food. We want it now, and we want it our way. and there's the application of it all. One of the problems that I see, and I don't know how to deal with all this stuff, y'all. The longer I live, the more I don't know how to deal with it. Because, see, I think that the more you know and the more you understand, the more you want to respond to God. But see, we either have it that And they, you know, they just want the status quo. They just want it the way they want it, you know, so let's go meet, eat, and retreat, and everything's okay. So let's go sit in our church building on Sunday morning and be persecuted a little bit, tormented, till we can go see our football games or go do our whatever it is we're going to do afterwards and all that kind of stuff and get through over with it, and everything will be all right. And the sad thing about that is, even the ones who are supposed to be the prophets of God, who speak for God, you know, keep telling lies. I'm okay, you're okay. We're okay. And we ain't. Well, that's my sermon. I'm sick of it. So, notice that, verse 33, after this event, Jeroboam did not return from his evil way. But again, he made priests of the high places from among all the people. And any who would, he ordained to be priests on the high places. You want to be a priest? You can be one. This event became sin to the house of Jeroboam, even to blot it out and destroy it from the face of the earth. Jeroboam's house on the throne of Israel only lasted to his son. He sat on the throne, his son sat on the throne, and the son was killed. And a new dynasty, if you call two people a dynasty, a new regime comes to the throne. Now, 14, which is the next lesson of question, y'all. And hopefully it's 14 and 15, so we'll see how that goes. What happened to Jeroboam? His son became sick. And what did Jeroboam do? He sent his wife in disguise. Disguise yourself so that you'll not know that you're the wife of Jeroboam, and go to Shiloh, the prophet of God. Ahijah, the prophet, is there. Now, Ahijah is the same one who ripped the robe in two and gave 10 pieces to Jeroboam and 2 pieces to Rehoboam. He's a prophet of God. He prophesies the divided kingdom, and it happens. And so Jeroboam sends his wife in disguise to the true prophet of God, knowing what? That his prophets and priests couldn't help him one bit. They couldn't help him one bit. So he sends to the only one who could help him, by the way. Take 10 loaves with you, some cakes, and go to him, and he'll tell you what will happen to the boy. And so she did. And notice that, and probably one of the reasons why he said go disguise yourself, etc., was Ahijah could not see. So if you can't see, he can't recognize who she is. And if she disguises herself with her voice, then he won't know that it's Jeroboam's wife who's come to ask him about the son. So the Lord said to Ahijah, behold, the wife of Jeroboam is coming to inquire concerning your son, for he's sick. You shall say thus and thus to her, for it will be when she arrives that she'll pretend to be another woman. And when Ahijah heard the sound of her feet coming to the doorway, he said, come in, wife of Jeroboam. Why do you pretend to be another woman? For I am sent to you with a harsh message. Now here she is in her disguise, and you know, and she just gets to the door, and he calls to her. Go say to Jeroboam, thus says the Lord God of Israel, because I exalted you from among the people to make you leader over my people Israel, and tore the kingdom away from the house of David, and gave it to you, yet you have not been like my servant David, who kept my commandments and followed me with all his heart to do only what was right in my sight. you also have done more evil than all who were before you. Who was before him? Yeah. Saul, David, and Solomon. And of course, Saul was a rascal, and Solomon was a rascal. And Rehoboam is worse than anybody he was before. And by the way, all of the kings of Israel, all of the northern kings, are going to be defined by Jeroboam and his badness. Now, we don't do that with people today, do we?
Just like your dad.
Yeah, just like your daddy, just like
And
your
your
mom.
grandpa, and your
Yeah.
keep going.
And made for yourself other gods, molten images, spoken from anger, and you have done what? Cast me, God, behind your back. Therefore, behold, I am bringing calamity on the house of Jeroboam, and will cut off from Jeroboam every male person, both bond and free, slaves and free in Israel. I will make a clean sweep of the house of Jeroboam as one sweeps away dung until it's gone. Anyone belonging to Jeroboam who dies in the city, the dogs will eat. Anyone who dies in the fields, the birds of the heavens will eat. For the Lord has spoken it. So they're not even going to be buried. Now, so the promise is every male, which cuts off the dynasty. There's no more family of Jeroboam because there's no more males to carry on the name. So arise and go to your house, and when you get your feet into the city, the child will die. All Israel shall mourn for him and bury him, for he alone, listen to this, of Jeroboam's family will come to the grave. That baby is going to die, that child, that boy.
He'll be buried.
And he'll be buried. And notice, because in him, what?
He was done.
In the house, and God of Israel in the house of Jeroboam.
He was his child.
Now, so wait a minute. So all of the males in Jeroboam's family are going to die, and the baby is a male, and he's going to die. So what's the good? And the only good here is physical good, folks. He gets to be buried in the grave, and the rest of them get to be eaten by scavengers. That's it. Now, so God saved the baby because, or the child, and it wasn't necessarily a baby, y'all. Okay?
Yeah, child.
Saves the child because something good. So if God can find something good in somebody, He'll save them. But there's none good, not even one. So see, be careful how you think. See, that's my point. Be careful how you think about what's said in the Bible.
But he wasn't saved, he was buried.
He was buried.
He still was killed.
Yeah.
He was saved from being eaten up,
Yeah. Now, remember that babies are innocent. So if it was a baby, it would be innocent. That's not even the point. Okay? Innocent people are innocent people, and it don't matter what kind of death, calamity, whatever, tragedy or not tragedies. You know, it don't matter what it is. Innocent people are innocent people, and so they're treated by God as innocent people always. But don't confuse the Old Testament language with New Testament language. Old Testament language is always in the realm of the physical and fleshly. So, he's the only one that's going to go to the grave. Moreover, the Lord will raise up for himself a king over Israel who will cut off the house of Jeroboam this day and from now on. He will strike Israel as a reed is shaken in the water, and uproot Israel from the good land which he gave to her fathers, and scatter them beyond the Euphrates River, because they've made their Asherim, provoking the Lord to anger. Now, so he's going to send them away into Assyrian captivity. But he's not going to send them away into Assyrian captivity immediately. Remember, and we have a commentary, by the way. It's interesting, I know. Literally in the Hebrew it would say he will scatter them beyond the river. The scholars know that the river is the Euphrates River. And so they insert it there. But notice, ultimately Israel will go away into captivity, into Assyrian captivity, because of Jeroboam. He will have so influenced the nation of Israel that there can be no hope for him. None. So what lesson do we learn from that, by the way? Be careful who your ancestors are. Be careful who your descendants are when we have no choice. So what's good enough for Mom and good enough for Papa may not be good enough for me. We've got to always be people of open mind and open heart and desire. And see, that's not always true with us, is it? So anyway, preaching anyway. So Jeroboam's wife arose and came to Tirzah. As she entered the house, the child died. Israel buried him and mourned for him according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke to the servant Ahijah. And the rest of the acts of Jeroboam, and how he made war, how he reigned, behold, they're written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Now, that's not the book of Chronicles which we have. Remember that each king kept their chronicle. Who was the king of Assyria when Esther, Ahasuerus, and they were keeping the chronicles of the kings and all, and he couldn't sleep one night, so he had them read the chronicles, and he found the story about Mordecai saving the king's life, and what. So the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel are the chronicles of the kings of the north, the northern tribe. We don't have any of those things. We have none of those things.
So is that like the, because most of, when they show about Queen Elizabeth, all the queens, they keep a diary.
Diary type thing,
Every
yes.
day, they keep a diary.
That's right.
It's not from God, it's whatever people have wrote about that person.
Now, yeah, but notice, see, in this the time that Jeroboam reigned was 22 years, and he slept with his fathers. And Nadab his son reigned in his place. So in all this process, Jeroboam reigned 22 years. Now, and then now let me tell you how to study the book of Kings, okay? The only time, and the only reason that a king of the north is mentioned is to talk about how they interacted with the king of the south.
Right.
And so what he will do is he will start with, as he started with Jeroboam here, he'll start with Jeroboam and get Jeroboam. And then he's going to come back and he's going to get Rehoboam, who is Solomon's son. And then, whichever king comes first in the land, Rehoboam dies. And by the way, Rehoboam reigned for
years.
Probably 2 years.
Where did you see that?
21. Rehoboam.
Yeah, here we go. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he became king, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem. So we get Rehoboam. And when Rehoboam dies, because Jeroboam reigned for how long? 22 years, okay. Jeroboam reigned 22 years. Rehoboam reigned how long? 17. So Rehoboam died before Jeroboam. So he goes right on to Rehoboam's son. Now, he talked about Rehoboam's son, Abijam, and he reigned 3 years in Jerusalem, and he died, and we go to Abijam's son, Asa. And the reason why that's true is, how long did Jeroboam reign? How long did Rehoboam reign?
17.
And how long did Abijah reign? So, Rehoboam and Abijah reigned only 20 years. Jeroboam reigned 22 years. So Jeroboam still got 2 more years of life left when Asa comes to the throne. So he goes on to Asa.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he'll do Asa. And when Asa dies, he's got to go back now and get Jeroboam's son. And he'll cover that territory. And you know, I gave y'all this.
I need one. I need one.
Oh, that's not it. That wasn't it. This one. The chart. And you see, Rehoboam reigned 17 years, Abijah 3 years, and then Asa reigned 41 years. So we get Jeroboam, then we go get Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, then we come back and get Nadab, Baasha, Elah to 41 years, wherever that goes. You'll have to figure that out, because looking at 2 years, 7 days. And so that's the way the Kings is written. I'm just giving you a picture now, so you'll know. He touches the kings, starting with Israel, okay? And then the next king will be the one who who dies first, I guess. You know. So you get Jeroboam, Rehoboam, and then Rehoboam dies, and you get his son, and he dies, and you get his son, and then you get Jeroboam's son.
So they all done.
And then you get, and so watch that go back and forth, because bless our hearts, we read Kings like, you know, huh? What's going on here? You know? And there's a couple of things that you need to remember. Kings is priestly. It is religious. It's not just history. It's God given the picture of why the children of Israel had to go into captivity. And he paints those pictures, and in all of that history, you know, you only see 4 good people. You know, and that's good in the relative sense, not not good in the sense of being, you know, totally good.
Gerald, you said they had to go into captivity. That reminded me of when Faye was cursed the bus driver when she was about 13, 14, and they had already called Mom. And Mom had all these scriptures laid out, and Favor had to read them first. And then she told us, that, now you know why I'm going to do what I'm doing.
Uh-huh. That was a wise way to deal with that. Okay, I'll print some copies of this out.
It might be something in that jar. I'll check, and maybe something came.
What the heck?
You know, sometimes, I don't know if I can do this or not, but no. need to connect this one to the office, so I can just print it and just get back to that. Anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. That's the point. So when we get to Rehoboam's death, Jeroboam's death. Get to Jeroboam's death, you see. Jeroboam reigned 22 years, he stepped in his father's, and Nadab, his son, reigned in his place. Now, because Jeroboam and Rehoboam began together, you see, we pick up Rehoboam, not Nadab. Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, reigned in Judah. And he was 41 years old when he became king. And y'all know generally that was the case. Very few kings were like Josiah, young, child king type stuff. They were old. Because if their fathers lived a long time, and then the oldest son is the next heir of the throne, he's going to be old. That's like when we study the Old Testament and the priest, the high priest dies. Well, the next high priest is going to be an old man. He's not going to be a young priest. Much like, by the way, the Catholic Church. So, every time they get a pope, he's an old man. Okay. Now, he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which the Lord had chosen from all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. His mother's name was Naamah, the Ammonitess, which says something too, doesn't it, about she's an Ammonite, she's a Canaanite. And so Judah did evil in the sight of the Lord. They provoked him to jealousy more than all that their fathers had done with the sins that they had committed. They also built for themselves high places and pillars and Asherim on every high hill and beneath every luxuriant tree.
If you're a religious, the women, they tend to would always go get them Canaan women. Those Ammonites and Edomites and Alamites, they married those women.
Because they were beautiful. They were exotic. They were totally different from what they were used to.
That's because good boys always like bad girls.
Right, I'm trying to clean it up.
The Ammonites,
They weren't good either.
the Ammonites were supposed to be destroyed. And then God predicted they would be a thorn in their side of the Israelites. And so, there it is.
But he also knew the temptation, you see. Don't let your sons marry their daughters. Don't let your daughters marry their sons. And that's it. If it hadn't been a temptation for him to do that, it wouldn't be a problem.
You always want what you can't get.
Folks,
Forbid to get.
I don't care how pretty, how good looking, how buff, how what. If you don't like the person, you ain't gonna pursue them. You ain't going to. See, sin is alluring because we like it. And that's the point. If they had done what God said and those people had not been there to tempt them, now, that wouldn't have changed their mind and their heart, folks. Wouldn't have changed their attitude.
That's right.
Because if there had been somebody there to tempt them, they'd have done it. It just meant that there wasn't anything there to do it. And we need to remember that, folks. We make our choices based on what we want, period. Yeah. And see, that's the sad thing about it. The more we live, the more we want. And it's hard to, it's hard to change. Well, again, that's my sermon, I'm sticking to it. But notice that Judah, they start off bad. Male culture, prostitutes, They did according to all the abominations of the nations which the Lord dispossessed before Israel. And it happened in the 5th year of Rehoboam that Shishak, the king of Egypt, came against Jerusalem. He took away the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house. He took everything, even the shields of gold which Solomon had made. Remember I reminded you of that?
Yeah.
So what did Rehoboam do?
He replaced them with
He made shields of bronze in their place.
They were shiny.
Committed them carefully, the commanded the guard and guarded. And that's right. So it happened as often as the king entered the house of the Lord, the guards would carry them and bring them back in the guard's room. So they'd polish them things up and stand them there in the pumping ceremony of the king's coming, you know, and have all the shiny brass. And that's all it was. So we come to, by the way, we come to the New Testament. Jesus said, you know, don't practice the righteousness that the Pharisees practice, because they only practice righteousness to be seen of men, and they've got their reward. But when it's seen, that's as much as they get. That's all they get. Which is kind of sad. What was it that C.of.C. said about all the? He said, you know, we have all the banquet table and all the desserts and all the stuff that God could give us, and we sat around making mud pies.
Why did they fight all the time? Why did they not fight all the time?
Well, because they wanted to be controlled. They wanted to control.
Power.
I mean, they both had their issues.
But the sad thing about it is, and by the way, Judah kind of held their own. But stop and think. They only had 2 tribes, and the Northerns had 10. And by the way, so we get this history going on, and I'm going to remember in Isaiah 7 with the virgin birth, and I'm not going to talk about the virgin birth. I just want you to see the context. In the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, okay? Rezin, the king of Aram. Now where is Aram? What is Aram? Syria. Always Syria. It is Syria.
They just love to fight.
Rezin, the king of Aram, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up to Jerusalem to wage war against, but could not conquer it. So Syria and Israel aligned themselves together to come against Jerusalem and Judah. And when it was reported to the house of David that they're coming, they're camped in Ephraim and they're on their way, his heart and the hearts of the people shook as trees of the forest shake with the wind. So God said, go out and meet Ahaz and tell him to have no fear. These 2 stubs of smoldering firebrands, don't be afraid of them, because thus says the Lord God, it shall not stand nor come to pass. They're not going to destroy you. For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin, and within another 65 years, Ephraim will be shattered. So Ephraim's going to be gone into captivity in another 65 years. He says, if you'll not believe, you'll surely not last. And that's when God said, ask a sign from the Lord. And Ahaz said, I will not ask or test the Lord. So God's given a sign to Ahaz. Now, I just wanted you to see, Israel was always against Judah, and the alliances, you know, came with Israel most of the time. Judah was always in the minority, and they always held their own. That's interesting, by the way.
But is that because they trusted God more?
They held their own because they would call on the Lord. They would finally call on the Lord whenever it came down to the bottom line. You know, you know, when, as Alan Brown used to say, when you're lying flat on your back, the only way you can look is up. That's just kind of the way it is. Now, so all we get about Rehoboam is, you know, this hypocritical stuff. You know, you got Shishak comes down and raids and plunders and takes all the treasures, and he puts the brass. He's got a brass kingdom. The rest of the acts of Rehoboam and all he did are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. And see, that's not the Chronicles that we have either. Interesting to me, and I keep telling you this, and I'll just say it and I won't go to it. Remember, First Chronicles starts with Adam. So y'all don't even think about that. We want to make Chronicles and Kings parallel books like Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And First Chronicle starts with Adam, folks. They don't even get to the kingdom till much later on. So, there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually. Rehoboam slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. His mother's name was Naamah the Ammonitess. And then Abijam, his son, became king of this place. So, Abijam reigns. In the 18th year of King Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, Abijah became king, and he reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. Not very long, by the way. His mother's name was Maacah, the daughter of Abishalom. He walked in the sins of his father, which he had committed before him, and his heart was not wholly devoted to the Lord his God, like the heart of his father David. But for David's sake, the Lord his God gave him a lamp in Jerusalem to raise up a son after him and to establish Jerusalem. Now, the only reason Judah continues to exist, folks, is because of God's promise to David. That's the only reason. I'll remind you again, when you get a chance, to read Psalm 89. The whole psalm. Now, but it was for David's sake, because David did what was right in the sight of the Lord and had not turned aside, except in the case of Uriah the Hittite. Well, that was a big exception. That was an understatement. Now, when we talk about the case of Uriah the Hittite, folks, we're not just talking about Uriah. We're talking about Bathsheba and the adultery. We're talking about him killing Uriah, having Uriah murdered so he could have Bathsheba, and the whole process. There was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all the days of his life, and the rest of the acts of Abijam and all that he did. Now, by the way, interestingly enough, think about this. So war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam comes to stand for war between Judah and Israel. The two kingdoms. Say, Rehoboam and Jeroboam then come to stand for the two kingdoms. The rest of the acts of Abijam and all he did are written in the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah, and there was war between Abijam and Jeroboam. So Asa comes on the throne. He slept with his fathers, and Asa his son becomes king. So in the 20th year of Jeroboam, the king of Israel, Asa reigned as king of Judah, and he reigned 41 years in Jerusalem.
When they put, he slept with his father, that means he died with his father?
Yeah, it means he died and was buried. Yeah. And he was buried in the tombs in Jerusalem, the tombs of the kings.
Do you think, we have some more contrast, between Jacob and Esau, when God has this, seems like in his word, this split between two people showing a contrast. Is that kind of connected some kind of way, the difference between law and grace?
Oh yeah.
Going on?
Without a doubt.
Kind of see that picture. I just thought about that.
Yeah. Without a doubt, that's true. That's the main picture. Folks, the message of God is that salvation is by grace through faith plus nothing. Plus nothing. And so since that's true, works and faith, you see, always clash. Law and grace always clash, because grace has to be received by faith, Law has to be done by works. And so it's always that contrast. And bless our hearts, we still want to talk about how good we do and how good we are. We want to talk about how many church services we go to and how many prayers we pray. And so we want to talk like the Pharisees talked. And then we want to justify ourselves because we're better than other people. And that whole contrast throughout the whole Bible, God makes that contrast.
I just thought about that because, you know, when you get that split and then you start getting those twos, and then I started thinking, okay, Jacob and Esau, and then we got the two mountains, you know, you get over here, you got all of that, and I was thinking, okay, well,
Always.
maybe all that's connected.
Always.
Can you say that again? The two contracts.
You can get it from Jesus. I'm not sure I can say it again. He's got me Watergated right there. By the way, he will put this on Facebook in a little while. So friend him on Facebook and you'll have that whole thing. I always share his, he puts it on because we're friends, and then I can share it to my friends because I'm friends with some people he's not. So they can get it. But my family, I got a lot of family that sees this every week.
Oh, really?
Every week. Anyway. And just as a freebie, and I'm going to have to start winding this thing up so we don't get through 15. I got 2 projects working. One is that I'm trying to deal with a internet class. People who have computers and can get on the internet, I can sit at my computer and they can see my screen. I can talk, they can hear, they can talk to me even. We can talk back and forth, ask questions, and they can see everything that's on my computer. I can show them the verses when we talk about it. I can show them the outline. I can show them questions or whatever. I can just do, and I'm going to experiment with that a little bit for about a month because it's going to be an expensive project if I ever if I decide to do it. Seeing how it's going to come out. But that's probably the wave of the future, folks. I mean, it is a wave of the future.
There's a website that I've gotten into, and it's called TV something, but I have it on my favorites, so and it shows it's a class.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
one, you know, like not Genesis. It doesn't start from the beginning. It starts like what goes first and second, and then it asks you questions or what to study, memory verses.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there.
It takes a lot of time.
A lot of stuff out there. But anyway, the other thing is that I've got a software program in which it saves everything into a particular video type thing. It just saves it. And so
The reason I'm saying is it would benefit a lot of people.
the difference between the meeting program and the other program is there can be no interaction. There can be no physical interaction. It would just be like a YouTube class. You know, you just view it and have all the stuff. The meeting thing, we can have physical interchange. I can talk to you and you can talk to me and we can talk to each other type stuff. But anyway, we'll see how that goes, and I'll be talking more about that in the very near future. I'm sorting things out now. Well, let me just introduce Asa here and we'll quit right here. Or let me not. Let's stop right there and start with verse 9 next week. We got 4 minutes. 2 minutes. So we'll start with 15:9 next week, y'all.